Hi everyone, for your starter today I want you to spend a little bit of time thinking about whether you recognise these video game controllers and then have a little bit of time to think about it and we'll come back in a second and I'll tell you what they are. Okay, hopefully you've had a little bit of time to think about it. The one on the left, if you recognise it, is from one of the first big video gaming consoles, which was the Nintendo SNES. And the second one on the right hand side, which is a little bit more my era, was the Sega Mega Drive. So well done if you recognise them. If not, some great retro gaming consoles. If any of your mums and dads and grands and granddads have them in the cupboard, rake them out and have a go because they are brilliant. So today what we're going to go on to talk about is gaming mechanics. It's a little bit more complicated than some of the things we've looked at so far. So I'm hoping that by the end of today's period, or session, we should be able to list different types of game mechanics, and hopefully from today's task you'll be able to identify game mechanics that are used in a game. So basically we want to start off with what actually is game mechanics. Now if you have a little look online, it's quite difficult to find a proper definition of what game mechanics is, and it's quite often confused with the term gameplay. Okay, so to understand what a game mechanic is, it's probably important to also understand what gameplay is. Now gameplay is essentially how the player interacts with a game, how it works, its rules, its plot, its objectives, the challenges, what it is you're actually meant to do to play the game. And the game mechanics support that by providing a construct of kind of rules and methods designed for the player to actually interact with and to play the game. Okay, and hopefully when we look through a couple of examples, it'll make a little bit more sense to you. So, game mechanics can kind of be split up into a number of different kind of categories. I suppose some of the key game mechanics that you might come across, and remember this covers all sorts of games, so not just first player shooters, but also card matching games and any type of game that you might play. These are some of the main game mechanics. So you see things like taking turns, rolling the dice, auctions or buying things. Obviously movement is a huge one, but obviously when it comes to more specific games where you might acquire resources or weapons, that's going to be important. Playing at work, placing something down, laying tiles, all those things count as key game mechanics that you can find across a number of different games and different types of modes of games. When it comes to victory condition mechanics, what they are is what has to be completed in order to try and succeed at the gameplay. So there might be goals or quests that need to be completed. It could be avoiding something, solving a puzzle, completing a race, gaining a number of victory points. Those are all examples of mechanics that also might involve some of the key game mechanics. So if, for example, if the aim of the game is to roll, I don't know, 6 snake eyes in a row, which is double one with double dice. The dice movement is a key game mechanic, and the victory condition is rolling so many snake eyes in a row. So they can be combined together. Okay, so the key game ones are just like your official mechanics, and then your victory conditions are what can be used to actually succeed at a game. So if we start off with an old game or simple game, we've got Tetris. Now hopefully you all know how to play this, but if you don't, basically what happens is that tiles of different shapes, and you can see them from the colours there, fall from the ceiling of the Tetris, and your job is to rotate them and to try to apply them so that you fill the entire layer. Okay, and the more layers you fill, the more points you gain. Your screen will fill up faster. They get a little bit faster as you go on, and you've got to try and stay alive for as long as you can. Very simplistic game, but very, very popular. So this can be split up into 4 different game mechanics. The first one is the rotation system. So for example, the blocks spawn at the top, which direction or position are they in, or what rotation are they in when they actually spawn, and which direction they rotate in. When they rotate near the edge, they have to obviously move away. So you can see that 4 block tall one. If we rotated that just now, it'd have to move 4 blocks coming out from the wall because it hit the wall. So there's all things like that. The rotation system is very important. The randomizer, so what block is going to come up next? Is there a specific sequence, or what's the random spawning of the blocks is important. The scoring system, so if you get a line, you get a score, but also if, as this game's just about to do, get 4 lines in a row, you're going to get a higher score, and obviously the quicker you do that, etc., then you'll get more points, and obviously the more points you've got, the faster the blocks fall, which again is connected to the scoring system as well. And then the last one is the actual player's movements or movability, which is like you being able to move left and right, being able to drop faster, to rotate, etc., etc. Okay, so those are like the 4 main types of game mechanics for a very very simple game. But let's be honest, most of the games that we play nowadays have a lot more rules and complexity than the like of Tetris. So I decided that I would do my task this week on Call of Duty. Now, rather than picking just Call of Duty Infinite Warfare, I've kind of just done it on Call of Duty as a whole. And when I had a little look at it online, this is a list of the game mechanics that came up. So you can see there is a huge amount of game mechanics there. And I'm not expecting you or even me to know what all those different things are. But for example, if we point out a few, you're going to understand in the game where leaning might be used around the edge of the building to try and shoot somebody when you're in kind of mid hiding. Swimming, we understand for the most part what that would look like in a game. And we've obviously got the maps, the health system. There's lots of them that you would recognise more and could understand what they look like and also see them in different games perhaps you've played. But then you've also got ones that are maybe a bit more obscure and you're not entirely sure what they do. So like damage multiplier, finishing move, paintball effects, wall running, zero gravity. What do they look like in Call of Duty? What do they look like elsewhere? And that really leads us into what our task is for this week. So what I would like you to do is to pick a game or a series of games like what I've done with Call of Duty that you know has complex game mechanics. Okay, so it could be something like Spyro or even Mario and things like that. I've got quite complex mechanics. Okay, but a kind of complex game. And I want you to choose from all of the mechanics that you can find about that game, 5 what we would call common or more simple mechanics that you've maybe found in lots of games of that type, and then 5 uncommon mechanics. Now, one thing I would say is when I did this task, I found a really good website called Fandom. And with any games where there's a series, so like Battlefield, Call of Duty, Assassin's Creed, probably all those types of games, you'll find that there will be you'll find that there's a page on them where they have their own wiki pages and things, and usually those will have lists of mechanics and also have descriptions of what those are, so you can use that to help your research. Okay, so see if you can find a good web page that's going to give you lots of information about it. And if you're doing a series, it doesn't mean that you have to do all of it on, you don't have to do it all on Infinite Warfare. So feel free to jump in forward in between or talk about the differences that's in some of the complex game mechanics or the simple game mechanics that's changed throughout the series. So if you're talking about the health system, for example, then why not talk about how that's changed from the first Call of Duty to the last Call of Duty? So that's the type of thing you're looking for, right? So if I looked at Call of Duty in particular, I came up with health system, leaning, maps, melee, and swimming as my 5 common mechanics. There was more than that, but those were just the 5 that I picked. And then for my 5 uncommon mechanics, I picked damage multiplier, finishing moves, paintball effects, wall running, and zero gravity. Okay, so common and uncommon, that's what you're doing, choosing 5 of each on a game or game series of your choice. And then you're going to use the template that I've provided to give me some information about them. Okay, and that's roughly the amount of information that I'm looking for. Again, I'm looking for more detail from the level 6s, so probably about the same as this. And it doesn't have to be quite as much for the level 4s and level 5s, okay? But sort of like 2 A4 pages is what I'm looking for, right? So I want you to describe each of them again in your own words, but copy and paste stuff. Feel free to put in images to support what you've said. You can see my images are quite small and just there to support where I've shown information about swimming or the melee attacks and stuff like that. There wasn't a lot of images for mechanics necessarily, just because you're sometimes talking about something that you might not see on the screen. But if you're doing things like a crawl or crouch and things like that, then it is quite easy usually to find some sort of image to support what it is you're talking about. Okay, so that's your task for this week, and I've provided a template that will hopefully help you fill that out. And then hopefully by the end of the lesson, you'll be able to list different types of game mechanics in the game that you've chosen and identify those game mechanics and describe maybe a little bit about what they actually are and how they're used. Okay, so hopefully you can all get on that. If you've got any questions, give me a shout and I'll speak to you next week, guys. Bye.